In our yard we have an elder tree, that's E-L-D-E-R. In Australia they're an introduced species, but they have a very useful part to play in the world of horology. As you can see, most of the bark on the tree is quite heavily textured, though it can take on several different appearances depending on which branch you happen to be looking at. The parts with the textured bark tend to be associated more with older woody growth. What we're looking for are these smooth, upright shoots. When they first emerge, they're bright green and are completely useless to us, as when you cut them open, they're just full of a sort of a wet gelatinous sponge. So we're looking for ones that are brown and dried off. They may even have died, and they sound quite papery and light when you tap them. And even when a shoot looks promising up at the top end, if you travel down, you may find, like with this one, that there are thick green shoots growing out of it further down. So we'll just take the top half of this, probably cutting it about where this node is. Oh yeah, that was perfect. And this shoot, which is still attached, but I cut through it to have a look, is also excellent. The fine rind of bark is already pulling away from the pith. The dry, fragile nature of this one indicates it's probably going to be extra good. So, back from the hunt. Now, I got caught out with this one early on. At this end, it's just got a fine rind of bark, and so I thought, yep, beauty, I'll chop the whole thing off. But once you get all the way to the other end, you can see that it's actually got some woody growth, so that's not ideal. You can cut into little sections to use it, to clean oilers, and just make sure you dab it into the bark and into the pith and not into the woody growth on the outside. But for doing getting the pith to clean watch parts, etc., you're going to want the other end. So after that, I made sure. Now this one I chopped through, and yes, it's got just a nice fine rind, so to speak. And you see, you can squeeze that, and see it's all coming loose. So normally I roll this under my foot, and basically what you're doing is you're just compressing the outer layer of the pith and causing it to break away from the bark rind. And right, let's chop this off and let's see how we go. Yeah, that crackly sound. That's quite good. That means the bark is actually starting to crackle and break due to the fact that the pith inside has separated and it's no longer being held in place. So there you go. So you now have a block of pith ready to use. And that's the same with all of this. Just cut it off into suitable lengths and crackle the bark. Squeeze the bark until it crackles, and you're good to go. Now sometimes the bark will be reluctant in letting go, even rolling under the foot, and so you'll have to just crack and peel away the bark piece by piece, and sometimes it pulls away little bits of pith if it can be a little variable in that respect. One thing to watch out for, the edges of the bark can actually be fairly sharp. I've cut myself a couple of times under the fingernails when trying to peel it off. Now let's see, is this? Ah, there we go. This is a really good one. But it's not very hard. Of course, obviously, you have to have an elder tree to do this. Apparently, alder, spelled with an A, not an E, also gives good pith. Bernard, a watchmaker we know, told me that you can use the pith in the middle of artichoke stems. That was artichoke. this is feeling a bit firmer. So this might be getting closer to the bottom of the stem, and so it's being a bit more resistant. So that one is going to be a roll under the foot one, I think. But there you go, harvesting elder pith for free. So I just store my pith in a plastic container. Keep it. Yeah, collecting pith can be a bit moreish. You can end up with way more than you can use, but no, that's okay. It's free, and you can share it with your horological friends. When being used for cleaning, it's simply a matter of taking a knife and just paring down the pith to the shape you need. Looks like this one could do with being a little bit sharper. And then, yeah, basically rubbing it on the part that you're wanting to remove dirt from. For instance, with this Verge Fusee watch, the fusee cone had a lot of rust spots on it around the snail where the chain goes, or the spiral where the chain goes, sorry. And so I used a piece of pith, got in there and just basically rubbed my way around, and the pith being soft molds itself to the shape that you're trying to get into. So it's very handy like that. So one of my old horology books suggests stuffing an old orphaned mainspring barrel from a clock full of pith so that you can stick your tweezer tips into it, or your oiler, anything pointing you need to clean. And then when it's too perforated, just pull them out and stuff it with fresh pith. If you haven't got any mainspring barrels, or you want something that looks a little bit classier than that, or the elder stick that I was showing before, which was too thick at the bottom, had too much woody growth, and I wasn't going to be able to take the pith out of that. You can cut that into little slices and hot melt glue it to a nice piece of hardwood. You want something with a little bit of weight so that when you stick your oiler or your tweezers into it, it's not going to pick it up when you try to take it out. So there's another way. And then I just rubbed some olive oil on it. When it came to getting around the sticks themselves, I used a cotton bud, just took a little bit off the oil off the sides, and then rubbed around in here so that there's not too much oil in it. You don't want it soaking under the sticks too much, otherwise when these are worn out and you want to replace them, you may have trouble making the glue stick to it again. But there's a nice quick little pith holder for your bench. Now, twiggy stuff from the elder, which does have a lot of wood around it, like this, actually still has a use. As handles for things like gravers. Because of the pith, you can just push your piece of twig over the graver. And then what I've done, because I was finding under pressure the graver was starting to wiggle around in the pith, I've basically just melted a bit of shellac and put on the end. Now, you can get shellac from any hardware shop or paint suppliers as flake. And then I made some channels in some aluminium foil, put a lot of flake in there, warmed it up over a low flame, and that made it melt into little bars, little sticks of that was longer, but of shellac. When melting the shellac on there, be a little careful. Just before I was some of this had chipped off, so I thought I'd clean up for the video. And I had the metho flame here, the little alcohol flame. I had no idea that it was actually running the heat up to the end here, and it tipped over. I think these are carbon steel, so I'm going to have to pull that out and reharden and temper that. And this is a little oiler, double-ended oiler I made out of some music wire. Again, just stuck in through a piece of elder twig. So they make really quick and easy handles. They're literally 2 or 3 minutes each to make. Well, I hope that's been some useful information. And thank you very much for watching.